Hi guys. Well, where to start after that result yesterday? An absolute humbling at Twickenham. What are our initial reactions and initial thoughts surrounding that game?
I don't think England are that much in the mud, and I'd say it's more of a France being outstanding rather than England being poor, in my opinion. Looking back on it, I just think France executed their kicks absolutely perfectly, pinpoint.
Yeah,
I mean, Dupont was running the show at nine, and I just think England couldn't deal with France's kicking game.
It can be both, can't it? Because I think the England team that showed up were pretty appalling, to be
hmm
honest.
Yeah,
yeah. I was gonna say, Kieran, you obviously said that it was just France being good, but if you can't take any positives away from England, then surely they just got trounced. There's no positives to take away from that team. If you
yeah.
know,
I mean, it was the England forwards in particular that were
yeah.
absolutely shocking. They had no go for a ball, which meant that Marcus Smith looked absolutely terrible in the game. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll go with that.
It was given 2015 World Cup vibes. Chris Robshaw's team just not doing anything at the breakdown and just get absolutely just obliterated. That's the vibes it was giving. I mean, it's a
It was
good
the
thing.
worst performance since I think the World Cup final. As in, like the most, as an England fan, like just the performance you just didn't want to see. Like that's the worst since the World Cup.
I,
I'd
I,
say.
to be fair, even at the World Cup final, we still got more points.
Mm,
This was the worst performance I've ever seen from an England team ever.
it has
Mm.
to be as their third biggest loss, and I think their biggest loss at Twickenham. To lose like that at home. I know obviously like South Africa's lost 57-0 in New Zealand, and you have all these big score lines, but to lose like that at home is just that makes it all the worse, I think.
If I was the RFU, I'd be calling Eddie Jones back and getting on the blow and getting him back.
Well, I was also going to ask, with many people saying like this is the start of a new era, Genge being captain, Smith coming in at 10, after especially the Wales result, looking as if the formula was finally there. Does that make the result all the more painful? Is this a backward step, do you think, for England?
A
I think
backwards,
it's more of a learning.
like if you look at the changes that they made, does anyone else realistically come in and make a difference to that game? I don't think they do.
I think Farrell could have at 10, arguably. And
No,
I'm not saying he would have been a 10 out of 10 performer, but I do think there were some mistakes that were made that Farrell, given his experience and maturity, wouldn't have made yesterday. But I'm not saying he
that's
would have been
true.
a 10 out of 10 performer. I think with the way England played as a cohort, nobody could have been a 10 out of 10 performer on that team yesterday. Like, if we're going to be
Yeah, but
completely real.
Paddy, how could Farrell make a difference when England just didn't have the ball?
No, but I'm saying when they did have the chances, even when we did have the chances, I know we didn't have the ball, we had limited ball, but when we had the chances, we still weren't executing
I
anyway.
just I
Our
just want
main
to put it out
chances.
there. I just want to put it out there that Farrell still played a half and didn't make a difference. So that proves surely that he wouldn't have made a difference whether he played a half, two halves.
Well, I think Farrell did his ball movement when he came on was good, and he was looking to create more opportunities. I don't think he. I'm
Oh,
not
I
saying
didn't.
No,
as I
that was
said, I
more
don't
down
think.
to
No,
no, Tony, that was more down to Alex Mitchell bringing up the tempo and actually giving England the opportunity to play on the front foot.
I'm not saying he was a 10-10, but I do think that he added a bit more creativity to the England team.
Teddy, our best
yeah,
were four lineouts, 5 meters out, and every single time we either lost the line out, dropped the
Yeah,
ball, or got turned over at the ruck. If you're South Africa, that's easy 20 points right there. So
yeah,
it's harsh to
yeah.
say that Smith, I know we're going to get onto it because I want to get onto it now, but it's hard to say that Smith didn't create because he didn't have the ball. And when he actually put them in a good opportunity, kicking from penalties, England's forwards just didn't do anything with it.
Well, yeah. Well, I think that's a good point, and it obviously brings on to our next point. How much of the blame, looking at it from a tactical perspective, do we think Borthwick should take for that loss yesterday? Well, I mean, not a percentage, but do you think Borthwick is to blame for the loss?
no, absolutely not. It's the forwards that are to blame for
Yeah,
the
I
loss
think
there.
if you just listen to what they're saying after the games, Genge said it, Borthwick said it, they all said it. It's at the breakdown and it's from the forwards. It's in the contact area. They're holding themselves responsible, which is a good thing, but you can't really put the blame anywhere else. It was at the breakdown.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the thing that's worrying, I think if I was Borthwick, who do you know as a coach, apart from, I mean, Clive Woodward obviously won a World Cup. He, I think, had England's biggest ever loss. But how many coaches in modern day rugby get beaten like that and have their job a year later? So for me, looking at that, I'm not sure how much longer Borthwick is going to hold on to his job, or even after the World Cup, if he's still going to be England coach.
Oh, come on.
He's got a
So I
four
don't
year,
agree with that.
I know he's got a 4-year deal, but as I'm saying, like, how many coaches in modern rugby lose like that and keep their job?
Taddy, like Borthwick, realistically, Taddy, look at that performance. When your own pack can win a ruck when you receive the ball off a
Yes.
kickoff, how do you blame the manager for that? That's just poor execution from the players. The players need to take all the responsibility for the loss. I think players like Don Brandt had one of his worst performances seen in an
Yeah.
England top.
He was awful,
He was
yeah.
appalling.
Yeah.
And I'm going to call out players because they were all dreadful. Apart from Itoje, I think had a half decent performance, and it wasn't outstanding by any means. But when you constantly drop the ball, can't secure a ruck, can't win a line out, then what are you supposed to do as a manager?
I'm just saying.
I think
Sorry,
the thing that highlighted to me about Don Brandt, I mean, there's a pass thrown across the line to him. He tries catching it with one hand in the soaking wet weather, and I'm just like, what are you doing? I think for me, we haven't got a proper 8, and I think we haven't got a pack that can go for a ball against the best teams. That's the problem.
I mean, look, we've got Zach Mercer who's waiting to come back into the team. I want to
Benno,
bring him up because he's
Simmons.
a player.
When
Benno,
Simmons,
Simmons.
Benno, yes, a player that should definitely get game time. Courtney Laws to come back from injury. Sam Underhill, I think he could still get back to his best.
100%.
So
he can,
there's players that can still come back into team and make a difference, but you need to see Borthwick wanting to make changes now.
Exactly.
There's no way we keep the same team. As much as I think Ludlam has played well, I don't think we can move forward with him at 6.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's.
I just think England's pack has been poor the whole competition. I can't name a game where they had a dominant performance. And then when it gets to that point and the coach isn't making many changes, I think, for example, Don Brandt has provided England with no go forward this whole competition, which is what he does at club level, and he can't replicate that at international level. But Ben Earl hasn't been given a chance to do that on the international stage. So this is what I'm saying, Borthwick. As I'm saying, as you were saying as well, the breakdown, that he can't be blamed for that. But then looking at it wider, should he not be making more changes?
I feel like Borthwick will make changes though, because we've seen that, for example, Jack Willis played well when he came off the bench and he took a starting position. He's not scared of starting Smith. He brought on Alex Mitchell a lot quicker. I feel like he will make changes, but obviously we've just got to see them.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's cut Borthwick a bit of slack. You know, he's only got 3 games under his belt, 4 games for England. You've got to give him a bit of slack because he's trying to work out the best combinations and the best players to beat every team.
Taddy, I think you're underestimating how good France played. Like that was genuinely a 10 out of 10 performance. Outstanding.
We'll get on to
credit.
We'll get on to France in a bit. I do think though, what cannot be denied about yesterday's firing Eddie Jones is probably the biggest mistake in English rugby history over the last. I can't name a mistake this big. And we talk about the manager. And why I'm saying Borthwick deserves so much blame is because Eddie would not concede 52 points at Twickenham. Do you think he would, Eddie Jones?
No.
So,
I wouldn't put it past him, but still, I do think he's the best manager for the job for England. But it's too late now. We got to just back this manager now, don't we? It's too late to go. Oh, we shouldn't have fired Eddie. Blah blah blah. Just got to back who we got.
I guess now on to the main talking point, the heavyweight decider, the heavyweight bout that we've all been waiting for: Marcus Smith or Marcus Myth. How do we think he played? Because obviously he copped a lot of flack from especially me. Do we think he was poor yesterday? How do we think he played?
Well, I was going to say I don't think he played well, but to say that he's the reason that the England lost by so much, he was poor. You know, he should never put an England shirt on again, or whatever it was you guys were saying.
Yeah,
like, come on, he was one. Listen, he didn't have a great game, but he was one of the better players in a terrible team.
Yeah.
Taddy, if you're going to blame Smith, you have to blame both the centres and both the wingers. Like, none of the centres got any go-forward ball. Wonder why, because Smith didn't have the ball. And none of the wingers did anything. Freddie Stewart was the only good player on the pitch, by the way. He was the only good player for England, sorry. But I don't think you can blame Smith when he doesn't have the ball. The only time he was effective was when Alex Mitchell came on, because he brought up the tempo and he allowed Smith to play on the front foot, which is what he's good at. And that showed Smith can play well. And he had a couple of line breaks in the game. So I feel like it's harsh to blame him for the problem.
Okay, you go.
I wouldn't say Smith is the problem. I think the four pack were the main problem. I just think Smith had a game to really cement his England jersey, and I don't think he played all that well. There's a lot of mistakes from him, missed touch, drop knock-ons, and like easy catches, like simple things like that. And that's not Smith. Do you know what I mean? Like he should have had a far better game. I think he kind of bottled a big moment.
Oh, I want to add that. So you're talking about the individual errors Smith made, and I'm not gonna defend him in any way in that regard. The mistakes he made, he should not have made. But then you'd also argue that there were, on I'd say 5 or 6 occasions, a forward had to clear out a ruck and missed their clear out, and there was a turnover, errors that they shouldn't have made. I'm trying to think, drop balls, errors that whoever dropped the ball shouldn't have made. Slow ball from the ruck, errors that Van Portfleet shouldn't have made. There's about 7 or 8 other players that made stupid errors that we're not talking about. So I'm just what I'm a bit confused about is why we're talking about Smith when nobody had a good game.
I'm talking about Smith because of the hype that was behind this England game. There was so much demand, people saying Farrell's playing poorly against Wales, Farrell played poorly against Scotland, give Smith the keys. Smith will be this guy. Smith will bring England back to the top. Right, and whilst I'm not denying that Smith had limited opportunities, right? With the opportunities Smith did have, he didn't do a lot. And that can't be denied. He was targeted by France in the attacking area. They targeted his channel every single time because they knew he's a weak defender. He missed touch. He provided a knock on. What I'm trying to say to Smith is, you can make the argument that if Mitchell did start, Smith would have a better game. I'm not denying that, but we need to look at what Smith did yesterday, and we can't deny the fact that Smith did not play well with the limited opportunities he had.
Okay, Taddy, the limited opportunities, he still created a try-scoring opportunity with a crossfield to Maitland's. Like, he still did that out of absolutely nothing.
But it wasn't a try.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying it was, but it should have been a try. Maitland should have caught the ball and put it down. I'm not being funny. I'm not blaming Maitland, but I'm just saying he created a try scoring opportunity out of absolutely nothing yesterday. So I feel like, and you just said with the little amount of opportunities he had, he still created a try scoring opportunity.
Well, I'd also like to add, we talk about him having no opportunities. He still had the most defenders beaten, second most meters made. So he is creating. And he's doing it with very little opportunity. And I'm not saying that means he played well, because he didn't. But the fact that he's still able to be an attacking threat in a game like that is for me promising.
Well, this is what I was going to say about the Smith stats and how they're almost sort of misleading. Obviously, he has the most tackles because he was targeted the most.
He doesn't have the most tackles. He just has 10 tackles.
He had 10 tackles because he was targeted the most in the game. The French, if you're
missing it,
pardon,
but he didn't miss any.
Yeah, I know, but he was being targeted the whole game. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So what?
Right?
He's still
relevant. He was being targeted and he made all his tackles. How can you knock him defensively?
Lawrence, did you not see the amount of times?
Lawrence made 4 tackles all game, Taddy. So he did not
Lawrence had to cover for Smith.
He did not. He made 4 tackles
compared to Smith's 10.
How has he had to cover?
How's that covering? If anything, Smith's covering Lawrence in that regard.
Guys, all I'm saying is this mistake.
The fact that Kieran's not backing you up here also shows how wrong you are.
Well, so the fact that Jack's backing you up shows you're right.
Kieran was backing you up.
All I'm saying,
I'm saying no one can back you up here because what you're saying is just wrong. It's just
not wrong. Rohan, it's not wrong. All I'm saying is Smith has proven to be a defense. What I'm saying is Smith.
I forgot. It's not wrong. How silly of me.
What I'm trying to say is Smith has proven to be a defensive liability constantly. In the Scotland game, missing the tackle on Van der Merwe. In this game, failing to tackle Livion. And you can say, oh my gosh, he's a 10. He's not expected to make that tackle. But any other 10 would have made more.
Right, Taddy, listen to me. A flanker, a metre out with momentum on a wet field, and you expect him to make a tackle. If you're going to blame Smith, no, Taddy, listen to me. If you're going to blame Smith, you got to blame Freddie Stewart for the Scotland game because he was a balling tackler.
I blamed him.
But you're saying that Smith's a bad tackler when he made 10 out of 10 tackles. He didn't miss
I also want to add, sorry, Jack. I just want to say, no, there's only one fly half has made one dominant tackle this whole Six Nations.
Yeah.
And you're going to go at Smith for not making a dominant tackle. No other 10 no other 10 makes that tackle, and that's showed by the stat.
You cannot stop on a wet day like that. A 6'3" player coming.
I understand you can't stop him, but Kit, he got nowhere near him. There was no effort from him. And we've seen him constantly. You're looking at the Arenza. It happens every time at Twickenham. You're looking at the Arenza try, looking at the Van der Merwe try, and now you're looking at this try yesterday. He's a defensive liability that can't be denied. What's the argument here? He's the
Okay,
defensive.
Taddy, with the Flamant second try, Malin's missed a easy tackle.
Okay.
If he tackled him, he wouldn't have scored. But you're going to blame Smith. You're not going to look at the other people that missed tackles all
Well,
game.
this segment was talking about Marcus Smith. We talk about
Yeah,
Maitland.
and we talk about Marcus Smith. He made 10 out of 10 tackles. He didn't miss any. So you want to talk about Marcus Smith? Look at the facts. He didn't miss any tackles, and he made the most tackles. So in the back line. So why are you?
He made the most tackles in the back line because he was being targeted the most.
Okay,
and he didn't
that's
miss
irrelevant.
any.
He made okay. If he was being targeted,
Yes.
and he made 50% of his tackles, fair enough. That's
Yes.
appalling. He
Yes.
made every single one of his tackles against players bigger than him, faster than him, stronger than him. So you can't expect for any more from your fly half.
All I'm saying is I think Farrell could have put in more of an effort than Smith did. Genuinely, I think.
No, you can't take away Smith's effort levels. Smith's effort levels were bang on. It's just the
I'm
lack
not
of
saying.
accuracy.
Okay. All I'm saying is not effort. Farrell would have played better than Smith yesterday. That's what I'm trying to say.
What evidence do you have to back that up?
Jack, the mistakes Smith made yesterday, like such as knocking the ball on uncontested, basically unforced mistake, kicking the ball for touch fall, and basically when he did have when he did have the ball, not creating anything in the back line, Farrell, given his experience and given his maturity, would have created. And I think people forget, before going into the Six Nations, Farrell was actually on better form for club than Smith was.
I want to just put it out there. Farrell has had shocking games these last few games. Like, he has not performed to his standard at all.
Yeah.
So this change, this Marcus Smith change was 100%.
Teddy, and if you want to bring up mistakes,
Yeah.
Farrell's kicking for goal has been absolutely appalling.
Yeah,
and that's one of his main threats, being an outstanding goal kicker.
Yeah.
I think it might have been the Wales game, if I'm not mistaken. He missed nearly every kick, and the Scotland game. So if you want to bring up mistakes of things that just unforced errors, that kicking that could have lost us the Wales game. His kicking ability alone.
Could I ask, right? So you say, are we saying when Farrell was at 10 for the Wales game, Van Borthwick was giving him excellent ball? He wasn't. Farrell was basically playing with the same circumstances.
Farrell did not have bad ball whatsoever against Wales.
It wasn't lightning quick. It was not lightning quick.
He had ball on the front. He had better ball than Smith did yesterday, and I'm taking that.
Oh my God! All I'm saying is, if you compare the two of them, right? People are saying Farrell was the problem. Farrell can't do this. Let's bring Smith in. Smith will create for England. Smith will do all of this.
I think it's obvious that this game, the fly half was not the problem.
I'm not saying, Rohan, I've admitted, the main problem for England was literally the forwards. I'm not denying that, but at the same time, I'm not saying, I don't look at Smith and think, you know what, right? England conceded 52 points. This guy, Marcus Smith, is the guy, in a year's time at a World Cup that can lead our team to victory. I don't think he can. I don't think.
In hindsight, you would drop Van Borthwick, you would drop nearly all the forwards apart from Toje. You drop both the centres because they didn't do anything. Wonder why? Because they didn't have the ball tally. And then you drop both the wingers. The only player you wouldn't drop from that game is Freddie Stewart. If you're looking and you saw the outcome, you saw how well everyone played. The only two players you probably wouldn't drop are Toje and Freddie Stewart. So you can't really say, Farrell would have played better. The whole forward pack, if it was changed, it would have played better. The nine would have played better. The centres would have played better. So you can't just look at Smith and be like, he was the problem. He didn't do anything. Well, if you don't have the ball,
I also argue that Farrell's one of the few players that doesn't definitely play better.
Oh, what I was gonna say, what we obviously did say was the forward pack was the problem, but as I said, Smith wasn't outstanding yesterday. And let me ask you this.
Outstanding, Teddy.
Let me ask you this question.
No, I'd say he was outstanding. France, outstanding. That was the best team. Right, let's not take anything away from France because they basically controlled England and put under their wing like that.
Dupont had the best performance of a night I think I've ever seen in my lifetime, and I don't think I've seen anything ever.
But that just goes to show you don't rewatch Dupont because he pretty much does that every game.
No, but Jack, yesterday was extraordinary.
He's literally that outstanding every single game. If you probably watch him, he does that every game.
But do you not think yesterday was an even more just outstanding?
Yeah, he played really well, but he does that every single game.
Yeah, but
he's done it. He's done it against every single team. He's done it against New Zealand, Australia, South Africa.
He's that good. His kicking's that pinpoint. He's that creative. He just plays. He does. It's just almost perfect.
What I was trying to say was against South Africa, he didn't play like he did yesterday, but it was easily his best performance of the competition so far. I think that I'm trying to say it was one of his best performances I've ever seen.
How good was that 50-22 though? That was pinpoint. That was beautiful.
His left foot as well.
Yeah.
I thought Ramos was outstanding as well. I think arguably should have been man of the match. I don't know who did get man of the match for France.
It was Ramos, wasn't it?
It was Ramos, yeah. I thought Ramos. I thought Flamont as well. Outstanding. He was
Yeah, he's
amazing.
I,
fine.
I tell you why I think France is so amazing because how quiet was Peno? We didn't really see Peno in the whole game, and that goes to
Yeah,
show how good the rest of the France players
Yeah.
were.
yeah, and he's best winger in the world. He's just absolutely insane. I think so.
Yeah.
Going forward now, obviously England have Ireland next week. Who starts, Smith or Farrell? Given how yesterday went, who do you guys see going to Dublin and being 10 for England?
You
I
know
mean,
what?
I'd still say that Smith hasn't been given an opportunity, to be honest. So I'd
I think
stay with Smith, especially in a game like this where it really doesn't matter. The worst thing you can like the worst thing that could possibly happen has already happened. So you might as well take a risk on this game.
Do you
You
know
know
what I would
what?
do if I'm
Start both.
Borthwick next week? If I'm Borthwick next week, I'm starting Arundel, I'm starting Alex Mitchell, I'm starting Marcus Smith, I'm starting all the youngsters. Give them a game against Ireland. Nothing to lose.
Can't.
We can't win.
You
Just
can't.
go for it.
It's a championship game. England need to
Which
go.
we can't win. Which
Yeah,
we
I
can't
know.
win.
I know, but you're trying to stop. I mean, you're an England fan. I guess you'd rather see France win than Ireland, right?
Doesn't
Definitely.
like
No, I'd
Yeah, but
rather
that
see
doesn't
Ireland
matter.
win.
That's irrelevant, to be
terrible
honest.
either
Point
way.
is,
Yeah,
Tally, the point is, we would lose no matter who we started. But realistically, we're not going to beat Ireland. So, in my opinion, I generally think to guys' best opportunity of winning, we should start both of them. I mean, you need Farrell's
Jack.
kicking against Ireland. No, Tally, listen to it. You
That's
need Farrell's
deluded.
kicking against Ireland. How is it deluded, Tally?
When has the combination worked? Tell me a time when the combinations
Well, it
worked.
worked against Scotland. It beat South Africa. Beat
It worked.
Australia.
You lost against.
It's no. Its win rate. Its win rate is something like 6 out of 10, which isn't bad considering England's recent form, Taddy.
Rohan, what I'm trying to say is right. This was what I find contradict you. Why you guys are contradicting yourselves is you guys were talking about. Oh yeah, this isn't working. I know Rohan said it worked, but I know Jack and Kieran especially were talking for the end of the combination and allowing those guys to play as out and out tens. And now when obviously yesterday happens, now you guys are calling for the combination to come back. It doesn't make sense to me.
I'm not calling for the combination to come back.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it.
Yeah, Tally, you know what? Fair enough. I'm being contradictory, but I wouldn't have this going forward. But I just say for the last Ireland game, I think to give us the best chance of winning, I start both. I don't want it for the World Cup. I only want 110. But I think for this Ireland game, because you need the kick in of Farrell to be somewhat competitive. And I feel like you need
What kicking of Farrell? He's not kicked properly so far. He's
out of
he's
hand. I'm
out
talking
of
out
hand.
You know what?
Out of
Farrell
hand.
created less an attack. He's had less kicking meters, less points than Smith has all Six Nations, and he's played.
France, obviously, I mean, I think a lot of people, myself included, were saying that they were showing signs of peaking too early. But do you think yesterday sort of illustrated how good they are and how dangerous they can be?
I think it's disrespectful to not call France World Cup contenders from now on. That performance was outstanding. They made England look like they were just clueless of rugby.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you don't call France World Cup contenders now, you're just being biased, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can barely fault anything. I mean, obviously, Ntmack still needs to get back to form, but can somebody agree with me here? Because Ntmack's not been playing. He's
I
not been
think
playing.
I agree.
it's fair to say he's not at his best, but he's not playing badly. It's unfair to say he's playing badly.
The problem is the expectation was when he played against New Zealand, for example, was one of the best performances we've ever seen from a 10, in my opinion. So I feel like he's still been a really good player, but I feel like he just hasn't hit that excellent, outstanding 10 he has this Six Nations.
The thing is with Ntmack, he could play a really poor game, a 2 out of 10, and because of the team around him, he'll still look good. Like he'll still have a good game, just because of Dupont inside.
I mean, you just have to look at his involvements in the game because he's got someone like Dupont inside of him who loves to take control. It means, and that's why he doesn't have as many involvements as other fly half.
I feel like kicking wise, he's still an excellent kick out of hand in the back foot. So I feel like you can't really take that away from him.
I was gonna say just two more things to talk about. I mean, depending on where you guys want to start, Danty's performance in the France kicking game.
Yes,
This is things we need to talk about. I think I'm guilty of calling Danty just a meathead that runs the ball forward. But yesterday showed, I mean, after Lekanyuam, he probably has to be one of the best defensive centers in the world.
Brian, what was I talking about yesterday? I said with Danty, him and Fiku, the France team just look like a lot more secure. They just look a lot more like confident in everything they do. So I thought he's a huge player to come back. To be honest, I thought he's outstanding.
Yeah, he's good.
Over literally everything, like making big dominant hits, and like he was just ridiculous now. I think
He's shut Lawrence out of the game quite a lot, to be honest,
yeah,
with his defense.
100%. And what do we think made the French kicking game, sorry, yesterday so successful?
David kicked
It's
Stewart.
probably
That's what happened.
also the fact that our kicks that would normally be contestable, they were too far, and that gave time to the backfield players like Ntmack in the backfield, Ramos in the backfield, and they could just, them with time, their kicking is like perfect if they get time on the ball. So that's probably where we fault.
I think England only won one changes. I think like only one of the kicking battles. I think they only won one. So I think that just goes to show.
On top of France's attacking game, like as a defender, you're always thinking where they're going to kick, how they're going to kick, where they're going. Like you're thinking loads of these questions because they just mix up their kicking game so much. It's so hard to defend.
France can
say, sorry, I'm just gonna say it's safe to say every time Freddie Stewart had to kick the ball, he was perfect.
Yeah,
in terms of his kicking game.
France can chew 2-3 minutes off of a clock just because of how precise their kicking game is. And Ntmack and Ramos are always there in the backfield looking so comfortable and are just happy to just choose time off the clock, kicking it back and forth. I mean, speaking of the kicking game, there was one of the mistakes, I think, was it Stewart and Malins in the backfield, where I think there was some communication, and right before France kicked it, they signaled to each other, yeah, let's switch places. And then Malins has gone to run the ball and the ball bounces out. It was a beautiful kick from France. And if I'm not mistaken, that led to a try. What do we make of like that sort of mistake, for example?
I mean, it's rugby IQ, to be honest. There's not really much else to say.
Talk about like how Freddie Stewart's always there to field the kick. That's why, it's because he switches places. So I think it's probably something that France looked at as like as they're swapping places, that space is left there. But then don't take away the fact that Malins shouldn't have been up in the line in that situation.
Yes, he should. He should have.
The ball, Kieran, the ball's in the middle of the pitch and he's up in the line.
Yeah, and then on the
nowhere near
if you look to the left of the ruck, there's a 3-on-2, and if Malins dropped back, it'd be a 3-on-1. Malins had to come up.
But do you know how to defend those situations? You drop back, and when the ball is passed out, 2 passes wide, then you step forward. You're not meant to start the game.
Stewart should have folded around like the pendulum. That's what I'm saying. And then the other winger, I think Watson.
That's what he was doing. He was swapping places to get wide, and then Malins is meant to drop while Stewart is coming across. The distance between all the back 3 players is never meant to change. So if Malins
are you saying that was on Malins' fault for the 50-22?
I'm not saying it's all Malins' fault. I'm saying as a back 3 player, you have to recognise the distance between you and your teammates.
I think Malins
poor communication. It was poor communication.
Could have dropped back a little bit.
It was honestly poor communication between the two of them. I don't think I'm looking at it and saying it's a Stewart mistake or it's a Malin's mistake. It was both. They obviously both consented. They obviously both agreed. Yeah, let's switch places. And they I don't think it's fair to pin it on Malins or to pin it on Stewart. It was just clumsy, honestly. So yeah, I mean, looking forward next week for France. Well, they're playing Wales.
Well, yeah.
Do you think France is still within a shout of winning the Six Nations?
100%. I mean,
England have to beat Ireland,
the pressure's on Ireland now because Ireland have Scotland and England. Obviously, England were appalling, but they're going to get some sort of response, hopefully. Not that results into a win, but I think are Ireland at home against Scotland or are they away?
They're in Murrayfield.
They're away. They're playing at Murrayfield.
Yeah, Scotland and Murrayfield. You never know with Scotland, but I still think Ireland will probably win both these games. But I'd say the pressure's on Ireland at the moment.
I mean, it's Ireland's tournament to win now.
Yeah,
it's out of everyone else's control. It's all in their control. So,
and I agree. I think me and Jack obviously praying for Ireland to lose so that we can just absolutely rub it in their faces next week. If Ireland can win, I think I'll start to respect them more and say, you know what, like this is a team that's built to last, not just a Jonathan Stockdale type beat that plays well for a bit, gets number 1 ranked.
Paddy, let me ask you a question. If Ireland win the Six Nations by a comfortable margin, would you then put them in the World Cup contention?
Nope. They haven't earned my respect yet, Kim. My respect's hard to earn.
What do they have to do? They're smashing every team in the Six Nations. What do they have to do more?
The point is they have to do it at the World Cup. That's the point.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter now.
Listen. I don't want this nostalgia chat about how they've not done it in previous years because every team would have done that until they win a World Cup. So let's just get something clear. Give them a shot at the World Cup. And I
Yeah.
honestly believe they'll do it this year because
They
Trent's
won't.
always.
Will not do
They
it.
will,
they
Jack.
won't care.
Also, I'd like to argue that history does not play a role anymore, just because if you look at the fact that France hadn't beaten England in Twickenham for 18 years, and look what just happened.
That's true.
So it's hard to say that history really has a
They were on the biggest stage on the World Cup, where it is literally every year they've never got past the quarters. It's not looking hopeful, if I'm being honest.
And they've got one of the toughest draws.
Exactly. That doesn't help either. If
Looking at
Scotland
New
pull out a
Zealand have a
masterclass, they're not
lot
even
of
getting out of the group
time.
stage.
New Zealand have a lot of time to get to their best. Australia with Eddie Joe,
Yeah.
You guys are criminally underrating Ireland, man.
No, I'm just being realistic here, because they do it every single World Cup.
Oh, Flopland will strike again. I'm telling you now. Not Flopland. That's fly.
All right.
Okay, forget
when
it.
when they finally get past the quarters and beat New Zealand or France, and I'll sit there in front of you and laugh. I'll be happy.
I'm so confident.
Yes, they will.
One more final point I wanted to make before we wrapped up. What do we make of, and I'm guessing this is going to be a video we're going to do. Obviously, we're going to do a video analysis of every team after the Six Nations ends, and just analysing how their tournament went. What do we think of England's World Cup plans? Just as a short little summary. Are they in tatters?
They're not in tatters, no.
I mean,
one game of appalling rugby doesn't define if they're a World Cup absolute wipeout. Like, come on, we got to put a bit of respect on England's name.
I mean, okay, if you look at what is evident, we're nowhere near the top three teams, which is South Africa, France, and Ireland.
Yeah,
none of them on our side. We won't face them until the semi-finals.
Very true. Yeah,
we've got a good route into the semi-finals. We can build momentum. Hopefully, there'll be a lot of improvements between now and the World Cup, and by then, maybe we'd be able to compete in a semi-final with a bit of luck. Obviously, I don't see us beating those teams without a lot of luck, but maybe.
I think a successful World Cup for England is giving one of the good teams a good game in the semi-final. I feel like that'd be a good England World Cup campaign. That's sort of the expectations I'm going into it with.
So our expectations that we do half well against a good team. Is that our expectations of the World
Cup? At the moment, that's what it's looking like. I mean, we've just been absolutely torn apart by a France team, genuinely, like I've never seen before.
But then again, Ireland tactically outplayed France against them, and then they bounced back and then they smashed.
They weren't beaten like how England were beaten. They weren't.
Yeah, I'm not saying to the same extent, but Ireland absolutely tactically outplayed France, and then they come back and smash England.
I want to say there's so much more to happen with this England team. There's so many players to return. There's so much growth for some of the young players to go through. We still haven't really found our identity as a team. So if those things can happen in the next, how long do we have? 6-7 months?
Yeah.
8 months?
And
then
Ben Youngs wasn't playing.
Team.
And Ben Youngs wasn't playing.
How many games have we got until the World Cup? We've got obviously the summer series. We have 2 games in the summer series.
I'd say about 5 games maybe.
You cannot fix that, I don't think, actually, not thinking about it. Not in 5 games.
Okay, I think genuinely now, it's not a hot take to say this. Japan is now a threat for England. I'll say that with a straight face.
No, Tally, right? Let's not be stupid.
That isn't that ridiculous to say that.
Thank you.
England are going to be going into that France game, that Japan game. We need to be at our best here because Japan are a team. Listen, they beat Ireland last World Cup. They beat Scotland. They've beaten Japan in 2015. They're a team that perform at World Cups. They're a threatening team to England.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that the same with
being on the same
with Georgia and Wales?
Well, yeah. Well, I say more so Georgia to Wales. But...
no, I have to agree with Rohan completely. I think England against out and out attacking teams like Japan, I think will have it will be a threat for them, and then obviously Argentina as well. We saw what they did at Twickenham. So I for England would be saying a good World Cup for England would be getting out the group stages. Honestly.
Oh, no. Wales and Australia where we got the group stage. We're talking about Argentina and Japan. I'm not disrespecting them, but England realistically, maybe not Argentina, but we should definitely beat Japan. And if we don't, then
this is your standard.
I think Argentina could easily be a top 5 team in the world right now.
Yeah, I'm a Springbok fan and I'll be scared to face Argentina. Jack, you cannot deny Argentina are probably a top 3 attacking team. Argentina, France, and New Zealand are probably the best out-and-out attacking teams.
I mean, and also arguably Argentina after New Zealand, South Africa... after France, South Africa, and Ireland are probably the next best team. That is arguable.
Yeah,
I feel like
Yeah.
the Rugby Championship will really show where Australia and Argentina are in comparison to New Zealand and South Africa, for being honest. I feel like that's a huge, like, championship, isn't it? Yeah, indicator to see what's going to happen.
I think we'll see that they really are up there. They're serious.
Guys, that was our analysis on England versus France. Lots of learnings taken, and we're looking forward to England's next game next week. We're gonna have a video. Our next video is gonna be the Scotland versus Ireland analysis, and we hope you guys enjoy that one as well. From the breakdown, thank you very much. We'll see you next week.